Hello, it's Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and today I'm here to do the hashtag hug decks, which is a VR in response to a video that Patsy over at, I think it's Patsy's Mystical Musings. I'll leave a link in the description box below to her original video, but she did a video about her hug decks, and I just think that with everything going on right now, this was just such a wonderful thing to kind of dive into. I've been trying to catch all of the other VRs and responses to it, and it's just been a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying checking out everybody's hug decks. So I kind of just wanted to jump in and share my own hug decks with you. Some of these are decks that you've probably seen multiple times on my channels, but at least they'll be here all in one collection for you. I don't remember if Patsy put a limit on it, but I have 5 hug decks to show you, and then I have 2 actual honorable mentions because I just felt like I needed to include them. So we're going to start things off, and it'll be no surprise. This is the Guardian Angel Tarot. I think this shows up in a lot of my videos because this is one of those decks that just, you know, it's a hug deck, like the epitome of a hug deck, in my opinion. The messages are beautiful. I love the artwork. It feels like a hug from grandma. That's what I call this deck. This is my grandma hug. I think I've mentioned before many times my grandmother's no longer with me, so every time I pull this deck out, it kind of feels like I'm just connecting with her in that way, and it's just, you know, kind of her way of telling me like everything's going to be okay. And I actually really love the messages on it. And I know I just showed this one in my spring video, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on it. I think the Guardian Angel Tarot is just like a hug deck, like through and through. Everything about it is a hug deck. And of course, I've cut the gilding off of mine and edged it in these pastel colors, and it just even makes it even more softer and, you know, feel more like a hug. So that is the Guardian Angel Tarot. So the next deck that I want to share with you is sadly out of print at this time, but this is the Mother's Wisdom deck. And it is just, again, it's another great hug deck. This one is very nurturing. I love the artwork in this deck. The guidebook is really fantastic too. And it just has a really wonderful kind of maternal energy to it. So where the Guardian Angel Tarot is like a hug from grandma, this is like a hug from, you know, from mom, a hug from the universal mother, like a hug from the great mother. And it's just really beautiful. I love the artwork. It just offers a really gentle energy and a really wonderful kind of soothing and nurturing message. So I really enjoy working with that one. It's one that I definitely tend to turn to when I'm kind of looking for that sort of mother energy in that kind of nurturing aspect. So this one is one that is fabulous for that. It is sadly out of print right now, but hopefully maybe it'll come back into print sometime soon. So that is the Mother's Wisdom deck. So speaking of that kind of mother energy, this is my Mother Mary Oracle, and this is a deck that lives by my bedside, and I know this deck has shown up multiple times on my channel. This deck is very nurturing. I love that it kind of taps into that divine mother energy. We have all these beautiful works of art in this deck. I do tap into the keywords a little bit, but really for me, this deck is all about the imagery. And I do want to get a second copy of this because I do want to trim it. But this particular copy lives by my bedside. And I set these up, I think I've mentioned it before, in a little stand. And it sits by my bed. And it's kind of like a sort of nightly prayer devotion to Mother Mary. It's the last thing I see before I go to bed and the first thing I see when I wake up. And so these borders actually do kind of create a frame, like a work of art when it's sitting up. However, I kind of want to get a copy and trim it down to just the artwork because the artwork is really what I love about this deck. But the energy is very nurturing, very that, you know, cosmic divine mother, and it's just like, it feels like getting a hug from Mother Mary. So that is the Mother Mary Oracle. So next we have a tarot deck that actually lives out on my desk. I think I've mentioned it before. This is the Art of Love Tarot, and I have modified it. It doesn't have a bag because it actually lives on my desk, and I pull cards from this at the end of my work day. So this deck has a really wonderful, nurturing energy. It definitely feels like a hug in the deck to me. And what I pay attention to when I pull cards from this deck is the lovely artwork and actually the keywords. So I use it more as an oracle. I do not do full readings with this deck, like full tarot readings. I just pull usually 3 cards, but sometimes just 1 card to kind of get a wrap-up message at the end of my work day, because I do work from home, so it sits on my desk. And I just love the artwork in this deck. I love the energy of it. It's very soft. It's very feminine. It's very kind of nurturing. And for me, it's just a wonderful way for me to shift from my sort of work brain back into my family life brain. And it works really wonderfully for that. And it's very nurturing. It's like sometimes, you know, work can be really stressful. So pulling cards from this deck really just kind of helps me kind of take a breath and really kind of get a little hug to know, you know, like, good job, you did your work today, now it's time to go enjoy your family. So that's kind of what this deck does for me. Again, I've trimmed it and edged it. I believe I do have a mod of this video of this mod on my channel, but so that is the Art of Love Tarot. So the last of the hug decks that I want to show you is my White Sage Tarot, and this is the US Games version in a tin. This is one of my favorite little decks. I know this one shows up often too because I pull cards from this deck almost daily. To me, this is a very nurturing and very supportive and very loving deck. I also use it as kind of like a meditative draw to just give me a little bit of breathing space throughout the day. But the artwork is really lovely. It has these wonderful soft pastel colors that really just make me kind of feel calm and comforted and supportive. And I think it's just beautiful. And I love the little tin size, so it's one that I actually use almost daily for those kind of breather moments and that kind of supportive energy. So that is the White Sage Tarot. So I'm going to do 2 honorable mentions. One because, well, we all know it like wouldn't be one of my videos if my Llewellyn didn't show up, right? The reason I wanted to just real quick mention this one, I know I show this deck all the time, but this is my comfort deck. So I would consider it kind of a hug deck in that sense. But this deck it's like my comfort blanket, right? It's like my binky. It's the thing that I go to whenever I just need some reassurance, or I just need to take a break, or I just need to have a moment. And this is, I think I've mentioned it in many videos, this is a deck that I even just shuffling it, I think because it's so well used, it's so well worn, that it has a really great feel to it tactilely, and even just shuffling it is like that. Sometimes that's all I need. But I love to pull cards from this deck just kind of for a momentary message. So it really is just my comfort blanket deck. So I did just want to mention it. And another deck that I wanted to mention kind of as an honorable mention, which I know just showed up in another video as well, but this is my Dreaming Way Tarot. And this is, while it's not necessarily like a hug deck, this is a deck that really just kind of makes me happy. Every time I pull this deck out, it just kind of brings a smile to my face. It's not necessarily like a hug deck in the sense of, say, the Guardian Angel Tarot is, but it does give me great messages. It's a really, really great reader, but I also find that it really does give me really supportive messages as well. Even when some of the more challenging cards come up, I still feel like I get a really supportive message. So the 9 of Swords, I feel like it's still, even though it's a little bit of a challenging card, I still get that kind of, you know, supportive, it's going to be okay. Things might be a little chaotic right now, but, you know, it's going to be okay. And that's kind of what this deck feels to me like. It's kind of like my everything's going to be okay deck. So while it's kind of a hug deck, it's kind of a hug / happiness deck. So it's a deck that I love to pull from because it makes me happy, but I do feel that it is also very supportive and nurturing in its own way as well. And that's not something that I really expected from this deck, so that's kind of a pleasant surprise. So that is the Llewellyn Tarot and the Dreaming Way Tarot. So I want to say thank you to Patsy for starting this tag for us and for sharing it with everybody, and for everybody else who has, chimed in with their own hug decks. I'm trying to get to all your videos. Thank you so much for sharing those. This has been a really wonderful thing to kind of just bring a little bit of light and love to the world right now, and so I'm really enjoying watching them. Thank you for joining me today. You will find links for the decks featured here in the description box below. I hope you enjoyed this video and will join me again soon for more creative tarot for an inspired life.